Welcome to the Carpool Chat, from our house to the State House, the commute that nobody ran for. I am State Representative Tina Bojanowski, and I am joined by State Representative Sarah Stalker and State Representative Rachel Rourks. The three of us regularly carpool from Louisville to Frankfort, and we thought it would be fun to share some of the conversations, but not all of the conversations that we have during our commute. Sarah, tell me a little bit about your district and why you ran for office.
Okay, so I'm in District 34, so I'm based in Louisville, and I didn't plan to run for office. There was a whole redistricting effort that happened in 22, and that bumped some people out, and it left the House District 34 open. You were my previous state representative.
I'm so glad you didn't run against me.
Was not going to run against you or in general. But I had some friends reach out and they said, we really need somebody who is strong in this district to run. And I think I had maybe 4 or 5 days before the filing deadline when I was asked. And so that might have been a good thing, because sometimes if you get too much time to think about something, you might talk yourself out of it.
Right.
And it was the worst time somebody could have asked me to run for office. And sometimes the worst time is also the right time. So we had just closed our home as a foster family for 6.5 years, and that was a really difficult decision. And I saw this as another vehicle to help advocate for kids in care and families that are in crisis, but just at a policy level, at a different level.
Yeah.
So
Super. Rachel, why'd you run for office?
Well, along with similar vein of redistricting, my district became an open seat. And so running for office is all about right time, right office. And it was my time to step up and kind of be the bridge of connections between local government and state government. And coming from a background in working for Metro Council as a legislative aide, I felt like it was the right time to step up and represent my community in the South End. So that was where I decided to come to the House, and it's been great ever since.
Super. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about my story. So I was in the middle of doing a PhD, and somebody said, hey, why don't you run for office? This was January of 2016, and I said, what office? And they said state representative. And truth be told, I had no idea who my state rep was at that time. I didn't follow state politics. I asked my daughter's high school friend for whom I should vote for state level things. I was not following it.
can I say this? I knew you were my state representative only because you came and knocked on our door.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
That's the way to do it. Yeah. So this was January of 2016, which was the election year that probably wouldn't have been a good idea for me to run, but they ended up taking my paperwork down to Frankfort and being 5 minutes late. So I didn't run in 2016, and I was able to take a couple of years and really get involved in politics. I did a program called Emerge Kentucky. I learned about, I'm a never-ending student. I learned about how you run for office and was able to win in 2018. So it's kind of a funny story. So Sarah, share a little bit about session this year. To start, this is a 60-day legislative session. Could you explain what that entails?
Yes. So probably the biggest question I get year round is, are you in session? And generally, most of the time, the answer is no, because we are in session for such a short amount of time. So in an even year, like we're in now, 2026, we will always be in a 60-day session. There is no break except for the veto period. And one of the biggest things that we're charged with doing is passing a budget for the next 2 years. Right. In the year that we just finished, 2025, that's an odd year. So I always tell people you can remember in odd years, it's only a 30-day session. We do the first 4 days of what's considered part 1. We take a break for a couple of weeks. We all go back to our districts, back to our lives, and then we come in for part 2 and we finish out the remaining of that 30-day session. So we're in a part-time position, kind of.
So Rachel, explain what it means for us to be in a part-time General Assembly.
Well, it's kind of laughable sometimes when it gets called a part-time legislator. But essentially what it means is we all have jobs outside of here. Unless you're just independently wealthy or retired, we all do something else besides be a legislator. And the point of that is to essentially have a skill set outside of just, being in government and doing constituent services and things like that. So it's supposed to help bring a level of expertise from an everyday person perspective to the legislature so we can make better bills. But it's kind of a joke because, you're never stop being a legislator. If somebody sees you in the grocery store, they're going to stop you and ask you about public policy.
Exactly.
And you
or down the street. My neighbor walking down the street was really upset about a specific bill that was filed. And I said, send me a letter,
Right.
you know.
My neighbors literally
Document it.
they leave notes on my door asking me about like where are our speed humps. And
Right.
It's sweet and endearing, and it means that they, you know, feel connected, which is nice.
Good.
But you're never really off. But we do have other work outside of here. So, for example, I work with small businesses in our local area, and I know that you are a teacher.
Yeah, I'm a special education teacher for JCPS, and I have a long-term sub. I take unpaid leave when we're in session, and it's like I have a baby every year. So, you know, this year we're birthing regular session 26.
So let me say this, though. The one advantage that we have as being legislators from Louisville is that there's a lot of people in Louisville. And for the most part, a lot of people don't know who we are. So we get the luxury of being able to go to the grocery store and not being bombarded like some of our other colleagues who live in more rural parts of the state where everybody knows who they are. And you cannot get through the grocery store without being gone for probably, 3 hours.
Maybe it's the local South End community, but I can't go to the grocery store.
Okay. Well, there's a variation, right? Just in our districts, like geographically within Louisville, because you're South End and I'm more east in Highlands, Crescent Hill. And so, I can pop in. That being said, my husband does do all the grocery shopping for the most part. So maybe that also helps me.
All right. So, Rachel, what have you been working on this week?
So last week I filed a lot of bills that I was really excited about. This week I'm trying to take a little bit more time, figure out amongst other legislators, like what bills do I have, but like what chance do they stand to maybe actually work its way through the process. I kind of want to focus in on some things that I think could really move forward and some other things that maybe haven't been introduced before, like some things around animal welfare and abuse that maybe haven't been heard during the interim that I'm trying to talk to some other members to see what we should do with that. Should it be incorporated into another bill or should I be filing it independently? So I've just been trying to be behind the scenes and socialize some of those issues a little bit more.
It's been pretty slow. I mean, we go into session and we're finished in 30 minutes. And that's not the norm when we get to later in the session. So there's a lot of flexibility right now. How about you, Sarah? What have your priorities been this week?
Well, so I am fortunate enough to have someone who's doing an internship with me out of the University of Kentucky. And he was so excited about coming in and starting that he asked if he could come in early before all the other interns came in. And I was like, yes, you may. So, we've been spending time just talking about what a typical day looks like for me, how he can, best be utilized to support me in the work that I do, some research, some policy work. I mean, there's just so much stuff to learn when you get here, and there's really no better experience than being kind of dropped in as an intern, because they really do get to see all the behind the scenes stuff that everybody else doesn't get to see. So that has been my focus, along with, to Rachel's point, a couple of priority bills that I really want to make sure that I can get across the finish line this year, which kind of brings me to a term that you guys may use. Do you ever use the term workhorse and show horse? No. Do you know that?
No, but I've heard that one.
So Chad all told me about that probably our first year, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He said, well, think about it. Some of the bills that we file here, they're show horses. We know they're not going to go anywhere, but they are important for us to file for a particular reason, right? Other ones are those workhorse bills where we really are going to push that to get across the line, look for that bipartisan, support, and advocate to try to get for it to be heard in a committee, just to start with.
Right.
So, what are you up to?
So, well, first of all, we used to have pre-filing of bills. So you could kind of get the gist of a lot of what would be coming before us. And now we start filing bills on the first day. So I'm very actively looking at all the bills that are filed, trying to figure out which ones are in the realm that I try to highly focus on education, families and children, appropriation bills, and which bills are going to be gravely concerning to me and which bills will I really try to advocate for. So that's number one. Number two is there is a proposed regulation. So often when we file legislation and it becomes a law, it will direct cabinets to develop regulations. And there's a regulation that has been proposed that would change special education caseloads and increase those caseloads. And as a special education teacher, like my colleague said, that's a hard no on that. So I'm trying to advocate as best as I can to ensure that we do not end up with higher caseloads. Okay, so our commute is not all business. We have lots of laughter, probably some things we're not going to talk about at this table. Sarah, what's been on your mind this week?
Well, so the session starts, so we're just in week 2, right, of a 60-day session, and we always start on a Tuesday, so the first Tuesday that follows the first Monday of the new year. And, you know, we have lives outside of this, and there's a lot of hard. And you guys were kind enough to be very patient while you waited in my driveway for me Wednesday morning, because I had some good friends of ours who had a crisis in their family, and we've got a lot of kids whose mental health is not good, and this family experienced kind of one of their worst experiences of their child trying to take their life. And so, not that there's ever a good time for a family to go through a crisis, but as a friend, like that first week of session, and because we're just trying to figure out what's going on, it's just hard to like not be able to physically be in town to say, tell me the 5 different things that I could be doing for you right now. So trying to be able to help from afar, and there's hard and heavy things, but that really only illustrates the challenges that I think that so many people on a day-to-day basis are having, and why the legislation that we file is important. To recognize what's really going on for the average Kentuckian and what people, need to be supported. So
very important. They're tough days. I mean,
there's
a message in my building that says you never know what kind of a burden someone else is having. You don't know what happens behind closed doors or in their personal life. And so we have a safe place where we can really talk about those things. Yeah. Rachel, how about you?
Well, I've been doing meal prepping.
Yes.
And on a lighter note.
Not for me.
Not for you. But in my inner home, we have been doing more meal prepping. And so essentially, I have been cooking for myself. My sister works in the ER. And so she has been asked me to take on, kind of the lead of picking the meals and starting to prep it, and she helps me too. But we also are cooking for my dad, and so it's really become a family affair. My mother's taking me to the grocery store and trying to make sure that we can buy healthy things on a budget. And so we've just been cooking all weekend. And one of my favorite things that we've been making, and we've had it twice now, is bison chili.
Yes, I've seen you eating your bison chili.
Yeah, and my mother, with her discounts for being a healthcare worker, somehow makes that affordable.
Okay.
So
Which
that's been
I did
very
not
nice.
know that, and I texted my friend Jen, and she was like, "I didn't know that," and I was like, "Well, my friend Rachel just told me, I need to go to the grocery store with you." So I told her, "So you might need to take me with you when you go."
Absolutely, yeah.
So how many meals did you make?
We made over 40 meals.
Wow.
So we're trying to make 2 per day per person who's gonna, be on board. And so it was a lot, and we had to purchase more containers.
Yes,
to try to keep it going through. But I feel a lot better because I already have always.
You are eating very well.
Thank you.
Well,
What's going on
I made 0 meals. My brother is here. He's a farmer in the south of France. He grows grapes and makes wine, and sometimes he comes to the States to market his wine. And I always love to visit him. He's my baby brother, and I miss him dearly, and it's really going to be a fun week. So
you can do some wine tastings and
what's entail I don't drink, but there's going to be wine tasting. He has wonderful tasting wine. But yeah, I love.
Do you
to
spit it
him.
back? Do you even take it and then spit it back in the cup?
Well, I think that the tasting they're going to drink it.
Okay.
Yeah. The real people, they spit it out. But I think that the people who are coming to his tasting are going to actually drink
Which sounds backwards, right? Like the real people spit
real
it out.
People,
Like they don't actually consume
the wine
it.
Connoisseurs, I guess you would say, spit it out. But this is going to be to drink. So thank you, ladies. We hope you have enjoyed the first edition of the Carpool Chat. We will see you next week.